Why push yourself in that direction?
Because it could be fun. Let me ask you a question. Why can't you be bothered to pick up a pen? This is what you made that bad? So it could be done as a hobby and not necessarily as a fantasy you've conjured up for yourself. It could become one with iteration, though. I'm going to tell you a quick story. My girlfriend refused to draw for 33 years. And by refuse to draw, I mean like refuse to improve at it or try, not take it more seriously, because we can improve at anything with a growth mindset. The reason that she didn't want to try was because her mom was pretty talented. We still have a lot of her works of arts now. She's just a talented artist. And I've been with Kels for 10 years, and let me tell you, she has been resistant. I was totally patient with my approach. You know me, Mr. Perfect. Point is, I probably wasn't. Yeah, I'm definitely not perfect. But one day I thought, I should probably practice what I preach. I realized I did the same thing for years. I avoided drawing because there's so many other talented kids I've grown up with. I was jealous, you know? Eventually I kind of just said, fuck it, you know, I'm only getting older. So I started. Stumbled upon zines, and I do them in front of her, or I watch it in front of her. Kind of knew she'd like it, and she's made quite a few since then. She makes her first one that night. It's about pizza. You know where it's at? You want to, like, grab it for a second? Yep, she did it. She's made about 3 or 4 in total. We love them, dude. They're so easy to make. They're so easy to do. Super low pressure. Oh my god. Have you guys ever heard of Jackbox TV? If so, it's very similar to party games that you can play together. If you ever played like Gartic TV, Gartic phone. Oh man, it's super duper fun. Highly recommend it if you're into that kind of thing. And she ends up taking up drawing to get good specifically at those types of games. Gartic phone and Jackbox.tv. Honestly, holy cow. The improvement has been immaculate. She just draws, doodles so much more. She's taken art a lot more seriously, or not necessarily seriously, but just playing around with it. Whether it's with my hair or with drawing or with her notebooks, she's trying. And that's kind of the main lesson that I've taken away from things, is you really don't know how good you can be at something unless you try to actually be good at it. Passion is found by doing, not the other way around. Like, it's not going to be something that's just going to drop out of the sky and like hit you. You have to kind of go and find it. She never thought she would be that person, and turns out she was. And I think turns out a lot more of us actually can be, especially with a growth mindset. Whether you can grow out your hair or grow out your drawing skills, if you believe you can and do the things that require what you're wanting, then you're good. At the same time, you don't have to take it that seriously either. Just have fun. Rick Rubin and Alex Hormozy have said variations of passion is discovered by doing, not the other way around. Essentially, you almost can't truly know what you have a knack for unless you do it a bunch of times and get kind of semi-decent at it. Sucks for those whose parents never made enough money to try snowboarding. I'm not talking about me. I am talking about me. You know, it also sucks for people who could have been legends, like at skateboarding and things like that, if they only had access to what they wanted to have access to. Think of people who say, like, I hate being a general manager. It's like, no, you hate being a general manager in that store, in that state, at that location, with those people on that street. It's not discounting the experience. It may certainly suck here, but it's a different here, if you kind of catch my drift. Think about people who say, I hate Atlanta. It's like, no, you don't. You hate the 45 people you met and the 3 streets or the 15 streets you were on or the 3 bars you went to. You only had a sliver of the pie. Do you think you've seen it all? This is actually why staycations can be so powerful. This is why staycations can be so powerful. A simple change of pace in the same state, other than the usual street that you're used to living on. Think of the people who are restaurant managers and say they love it. The tribe had a lot to do with that, and their passion. They gained a love for it by doing it. Nobody popped out the womb saying they wanted to be a restaurant manager. Well, maybe they did, but not a lot. Layla Hormozy actually talks about how her first gym manager inspired her to stay in the profession. He was encouraging, and he led with kindness. He wouldn't lie to you if you did something wrong, but he wouldn't shun you for it either. He'd help you out. He'd say, oh, it wasn't perfect, but here's how we can do it better. So I can agree, sometimes passions can call out deep. Sometimes. But it doesn't always. So we just do more things and assume we can. Or else, in theory, we're seriously selling ourselves short. There's a podcast in particular that I really like with an artist named Nick D. And he drops 2 quotes that I have on my wall. A statement shuts the door. A question opens your mind. If it's important to you, you'll find a way. If not, you'll find an excuse. HR, what can I say? I fuck with you, man. The fact that you responded, what you were saying, it's cool. If you've ever heard of New Yorkers and that culture, if we didn't fuck with you, we wouldn't say nothing to you. You know what I'm saying? So like the fact that I did, the fact that we did, you know, that in our culture, that's a good thing. So highly recommend checking him out. He's a good writer. He likes to do a lot of sprints, which are surprisingly something that I had no idea about until I would notice on his page. He would drop how many words he did till the goal with a group of people. You write with people, and if you've ever heard of Ship 30 for 30 by Dickie Bush, that's another cohort where you write with a bunch of people. I've noticed some of my writer friends, they you know, they lost a lot of inspiration in writing. For me, usually what gives me a nice little slap on the booty is some other people, and being inspired by them, hearing their ideas, listening to a podcast. So if listening to a podcast and two other people talk do wonders for me, I imagine it could do wonders for other people if they were in the same room. And so, you know, that's what our podcast will be for, and that's what I think could help people who are really struggling with writing. You know, some people don't know how to start. A lot of people like to brainstorm as they write. I found that to be effective sometimes, and sometimes I found it to be where you need to separate the brainstorm from the actual order. So for example, like if you know something really well, you can pretty much talk about it off the cuff. That's great. However, you're brainstorming as you're thinking about it. So it's good, but let's say you put it on a whiteboard, some of your thoughts, right? And if you're in a team setting, I got this from the book Presenting to Win by Jerry Wiseman. He talks about focus before form, or focus before flow. You figure out exactly who you're talking to, what you'd be presenting, and why. Once you do that, you start the show. And any answer, any idea is good. And when you get a category, you place it on the whiteboard and you leave it there. If anybody says another idea, you jot it down. You're Switzerland. Whoever's writing the ideas, you're Switzerland. You can't judge. Any ideas are good ideas. Why? An idea which you perceive to be bad or not as informative could lead someone else to another potentially good idea that you may not have realized needed a sort of stepping stone to get there. So that's really helped me with my writing. He talks about separating the left and right brain and letting them do their job. The right brain is more designed for creativity and essentially is going to kind of get lost in the sauce whenever people talk and you get bored, right? So whatever your brain kind of naturally does whenever you think about a certain topic, he suggests to just write that down. And if you've ever been the type to write and edit as you write, and you're kind of like, okay, wait, no, I got to do this. I got to start it like this. Like, nah, you splatter first. You see all your elements scattered around you on your whiteboard, different colors and different categories, if that's how you want to do it, whatever. And you explode them. You write a topic here, and then you start talking about a bunch of other things that might be related to it, and it connects. It all connects from that singular idea. And you keep going. If there's multiple people in the room, then someone might say, oh, I forgot about this guy or this idea, and you just write it down. That's it. It's no problem. And then you keep going. You keep recording. Usually after one of these brainstorm sessions, your brain's going to kind of stop and have a lull. He says don't. It's a false stop. Usually you get about 2 or 3 more boosts after that, and you're going to get a lot of ideas again, and then that's usually when it's expelled. That's when you then let your left brain do the work. That's when you let everything get ordered. That's when you look at all the ideas and say, okay, I'm going to start it like this. I'm going to end it like this. Why? Because you have everything spread out. You're not getting in your own way, per se. Now, some people work best on the fly. By all means, do your thing, but this is just another tool in your toolbox. And especially for writers, I know people get stuck a lot. Let your brain wander. Just jot down whatever you're randomly thinking about. Dedicate a page to that. Eventually, your left brain might start seeing some patterns or might start seeing some order. That's when the magic begins. A lot of writers talk about surrendering, to who you really are, to what you really want to write about. I don't think that could be more accurate. You're uncovering your voice in a way. People talk about finding your voice, and Layla Hermosi specifically talks about how it wasn't finding it. She had one. It was about uncovering it. And I really like that. It's about finding the tools. Robert Greene talks about mastery, and mastery is essentially mastery of a process, and a process essentially requires tools. And, that's it. when you have access to these tools and you are allowing them to be extensions of your body, you're letting creativity flow through you. There's no longer any walls or objections from your process. You're good. But it goes back to what I was saying earlier. Passion is discovered by doing. You need to practice using those tools in order to have that flow. You know, people kind of wish they were Picasso, but you can be. Like, you can be a genius, an artist, or whatever you want to be, a writer. You just have to do it a bunch, and you have to do it a bunch of different ways in a different style and in different styles, and you're good to go. You're a writer. You're trying. You know, there's that imposter syndrome that comes up a lot for people where they're like, oh, you know, I don't feel like a writer. Well, Dakota Robertson says, good. That you're literally aware of the fact that you need more skills. Listen to that. Feed that. Start learning. Go on YouTube. Talk to people. Join writer groups, writer cohorts. Whatever you need to do to gather more information. So that's where the passion can flow. The creativity has a way to get out. You know your tools. You have mastery over them. All of those layers are needed. I've got a friend of mine who writes from her phone. You know, just novels. Crazy, you know, to me, but I tried it, and that's how I write too. You know, when you're on the road or when you're walking and you have an idea, you gotta whip out the pen. It's the tool thing again. It's being able to have access to use your creativity, and if you keep stifling it, or if you're not, you know, using your tools, and you don't need a lot, you just use what you have. You don't need anything else but yourself and a computer or your phone. Whatever you have access to, make the version of that you can. It doesn't need to be perfect. If you look up people like Steve Lacy, the man won a Grammy when he was a boy, when he was in high school. He had 2 tracks that were made with just his iPhone. He has a TED Talk where he talks about using just his iPhone to produce those tracks that he wasn't even trying to become big with or a celebrity with. He was just making them with his friends. Ended up making connections with his band, which he couldn't tour for when he won a Grammy. Also ended up leading him to working with people like Kendrick Lamar, Goldlink, J. Cole, all from those iPhone projects. And when he finally got into the room, the engineering room where his manager bought hours for in the studio, all of the fancy toys, he didn't use it. He just had a mic stopper and his phone. And his manager would come up and be like, where, Steve? And he'd be like, yo, what's up? And he's just sitting in the corner. He didn't need what he thought he did. He likes to call that the bare maximum. Point still stands. Passion comes by doing. Utilize your tools. If you get stuck, let your brain roll. Your brain has ideas. You keep trying to limit it and funnel it as it's coming out. Let it fly. And then find the order. Surrender. You're trying to tell yourself something with that imposter syndrome. You're realizing you need more work or more skills. All right, fucking do it. Get it. Get that fucking money. And if you need help, you know, comment, send me a DM. I'm figuring this out too. I'm a ghostwriter expanding into other fields, so never know until you try. And you gotta really try.